Webster Report with Paul the Gasman Webster.
Hello and welcome to another Webster Report on this, the 26th of January 2025. Well, the big orange fella's got in. He's certainly cracking the whip. He's changing things completely 180. Apparently there's only two genders now in America, and they're not going to do all these operations or anything anymore unless it's for some specific reason, I suppose. But it's like there's an injection of common sense. And since the inauguration, it's interesting to understand what an inauguration is, and it's taking part of augury. When you look into what augury is, then we see this is a passing on of power. If all the symbols that we see that is involved in this, we know that the secret societies are now involved in all this. It's not being hidden, it's all in front of us, but we just wave our flags, don't we? And it's taken something happening over there for the spotlight to be shone on us, where the entire Labour Party doesn't want a national inquiry into grooming and rape gangs. My local council at Wigan, they had a meeting, and a councillor, Maureen O'Byrne, tried to bring up the motion about these issues. And because they had a 2-hour meeting and they stood there and they filibustered and took all the time up, as she started to try, they said, no, the meeting's over, and they got up and they left. So Maureen's very upset about that. She launched off on social media. Wigan Council have now reneged on that and called another meeting for it. But there's also hearsay that there's been pressure put on these councillors in these meetings to not look into it. Now, that is only a theory at the minute, but it's not as if it hasn't happened in places. So I think it's time to put our seatbelts on, because things seem to be moving. I'll just unmute you, mate.
Great.
You were talking while intro was on, mate.
Oh, yeah, you could hear me.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I thought, will you hear me or will you hear the music?
No, we could hear you. So,
Yeah.
What's going on, mate?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I've been getting on with my life. You need to do every day, because that's where it starts, from when you get up in the morning. These are the things that you can forget. It's very easy to forget. You've got to do the basics well first. You've got to lay the right foundations for your actual everyday life. And I do think there's something about night and day. They are convenient divisions. You know, they're like slices of cake. You don't take the whole cake in, you break it into slices. So, you know, it's quite poetic, really. You get up, let's just say you're aligned with nature in some way, and you got up at dawn, and you did your activities, and you went to bed when it would turn night. Before we had lighting systems, in the sense where man, you know, was able to harness fire and eventually get into electrical circuitry, there was a natural structure in the very fabric of reality that divided life into two portions. And we're generally, apart from people who work night shifts, we're active during the light. Good reasons for that, because we can navigate. And we sleep and rest during the dark. So it's a very nice system being provided for us that encourages us to align with the basic structure of our existence, of which we're just a part. When you look at things like strip lighting or permanent 24/7 lighting, or maybe, you know, certain animals hibernate in winter because that's what the season dictates, we carry on. And we're not always aware of the effects on our energy levels. So people then talk about modern ailments like seasonal affective disorder, which is probably just a symptom of the fact that we've continued to defy certain natural phenomena. We become out of kilter. We live in our brick tombs. You know, we're not like the Aboriginals with the temporary shelters moving around closer to nature. And there's a price to pay for that. We've got our clocks by which we regulate time and arrange our meetings, and we need them to make reality work. We need that order. But we've lost something as well by the way we've done things. So, yeah, for me, I think you've got to start, because it's foundations, every day when you get up. What are your priorities? As soon as your eyes open, what are my priorities? What sort of feelings do I want to cultivate today? Do I want to feel good? Do I want to feel bad? We might think the answer's obvious. Of course I want to feel good. But you've got to take the time to step out of autopilot, because this is a big reason for why so many people have been taken in. We can talk about the lies of the establishment, yes, but it's not the lies of the establishment. We were susceptible to the lies of the establishment because we weren't taking care of our end of the bargain. We weren't getting up in the morning, laying the right foundations for that day. Jesus said, sufficient for the day, the troubles therein. So if we don't obey that basic wisdom that Jesus had, things will. Those divisions enable us to have time to reflect, sleep, have a break, start again. If it all becomes a oneness, we know people who are depressed. Every day rolls into every night, rolls into every day. There's no differentiation. All the colours blend together. And we have got a responsibility to align with what is intrinsically healthy. Starting with sleep, starting with good diet, being well hydrated. Before we get into the food chain, we can talk about toxins in the food chain, but if we're not doing our own diligence, then we'll go, oh, all these toxins in the food chain, somebody else has done that to me. No. What focus did you have on your own health? Did you just rely on a GP when you got sick? These are the things that we've got to put right at a foundational level. So I thought I'd just start with that, Paul, because I think it's an important reminder that we easily forget.
Well, again, I agree with everything you've said, but when I look at it, when you get up for that foundation, it's only in the last 8 years that I've known that should be my foundation. It's taken me 7.5 to 8 years to actually start putting that into practice. Obviously, because you know what has been going on in the last 4 years. So it's been a real wrestle. It's been a proper battle. Not so much physical, but mental and spiritual, mate. I mean, that the CPTSD put me on my knees as if it was 14 years ago when the armed police were called on me. It was just, it's silliness. But when you haven't got a foundation, because my parents taught me what life was. They taught me what we had to do and everything like that. You have to do it yourself. You have to get up. You have to do this. You have to do that. Now, I don't disagree with that, but I was taught to do things that weren't necessarily in my best interests. We come back every week to this paying utility bills. In a debt-based economy, as a creditor, you shouldn't pay. My mum taught me to pay. She knew better. But when you find that out and then you tell the people and you think they're gonna be so upset, they'll be uproar. But nothing. It was me again. It was, and this is, we spoke about this recently, that I've been prodded again, that it's not, you don't know what you're doing, you're not good enough. I know better. All those situations come to you. And because you know that I have to then go away and go, right, do I really know? I'm going to have to go through all this again. And I'm sick of it, Alex. I'm sick of people telling me that I'm wrong, but they can't give me anything specific. It's just, that's not right. It's because you are. And this is where we're at now. And whilst, we bring up good old Martin Niemöller every week, these people are going to wait till there's only them left to be dealt with. They're not just going to, we'll see how many people are left. We were talking last week through the fact that the rats that these jibby jabs were tested on, they all died within 3 weeks. Now that's a year for a human. So within 3 years, that's from 2022, we'll see the effects of these jibby jabs. So this year, we're going to see something hit. Now, I've seen these graphene oxide just start to move and click into place and join each other just by putting blue light on them, just the frequency of a blue light. We live in a soup of frequencies, Alex. Tell me it's not common sense to understand that we are susceptible to these frequencies. We're made of water. Our DNA is all the structure. We now put stuff in that can possibly enter into our DNA and change things, how our body will react to certain things. This is why we're now, in my opinion, we're starting to see all these things to start pan out. But again, it's not affecting enough people.
Well, it is.
It
is, Paul.
Is it affecting them to do something, to change?
No, that's what I mean. It's not affecting them enough.
Yeah.
So
I find it amazing. I find it amazing that, you know, I saw a good clip the other day where Trump was stood on his podium. He even did a speech to the WEF, which is basically telling them, you know, this isn't happening. The WHO that he was playing with have been put to one side. So it's interesting to see what he's going to do straight off the bat. But he's saying we're going to make billions off this, billions off that. He's on about the Gulf of Mexico will now be the Gulf of America. Canada could be a 51st state. Greenland. And the reporter says to him, can you confirm that military and sanctions won't be used on places like that? And he went, no, I can't guarantee that. He said, because these are pertinent to America's sovereign nationality, and their interests. All of a sudden, you see America is saying, if you want to work with us, we'll work with you. But if not, 100% tariffs. NATO will pay us the 5% like they should. In fact, they should start paying more. So you see, America with Trump now is actually taking a leading stance. And we spoke about this in scripture where the eagle comes from the lion. And we're looking at the new Atlantis. You know, this country's been set up to do this. Now, if America's leading it, there's 10 nations that are going to follow America. That's going to be interesting to see where this goes from here.
Yeah. But it's the same thing. I think, you know, like, do you remember the old Join the Dots books? When you just look at the dots, they're just dots. So it's like when you start with a jigsaw puzzle, you've got to start with the first piece, and you've got to try and compare the image on the front cover with all the pieces you've got. It's very difficult to get going, and you can sometimes try the wrong pieces, and it can sometimes take a long time to get started. But we know that the more pieces you've got in place, the easier it is to complete the jigsaw. So the last piece is self-explanatory. The first piece is the most awkward. So when we're dealing with this, there are so many unknown variables.
I was saying we start with the edges, don't we? My mum always showed me when you're doing the jigsaw, you start with the flat, straight edges, so you get all the edge. So you've got the foundation of it. Now we can start. We can see that something might look like something, and we'll put it in the middle, and it's not joined to anything. But the pieces are falling in place, left, right, and centre, Alex. It's not even like you'd only have to know about symbology to see what's going on, because you could deconstruct it. But people are waiting and waiting, and the mainstream media, I'm not going to say his name because I'll get it wrong, but the lad who stabbed the 3 little girls in Southport, he was charged with 16 charges, including terrorism. He got found with ricin that could have killed 15,000 people, and an Al-Qaeda training manual, Alex. So he pled guilty to that. So he's been done for terrorism. Yet Sky TV reported him as a nonce. Didn't say it was anything to do with it. He's pled guilty. He's been charged with it. He's got 52 years, and they're saying, they're deflecting it, that it's nothing to do with religion or fundamentalist religion. And instead of interviewing anybody else, they get a guy who's one of the Muslim leaders in Liverpool to come and talk about nonsense. What are you doing? Why are you so adamant to deflect that there's anything to do with Al-Qaeda? Why? Because there's illegal immigrants coming in that are from a culture of Islam that is not like the culture of Islam in this country. We know Muslims, mate, and we speak to these Muslims, and they're nothing like the ones that are coming over. You know,
Yeah.
they've got values. I mean, some of the Muslims I know, one Muslim even said, "Well, I'm even part Christian because I believe in Isa and I believe in he's the Messiah and I believe this." Now, where could you ever think that you would ever hear a Muslim say, "Well, I'm a part Christian because of this"? You know, that's not what they want to teach. But you get
Yeah.
these apologetics, and you've got some great Christian apologists and you've got some great Muslim apologists because they know their stuff. But when they come together, instead of putting it on the table and finding out the truth, it just becomes an argument who can win an argument.
Yeah.
For me, you're dicing with your eternity on the fact of winning an argument. It's, you know, what do you, what, you've got to put it on the table and have a to and fro about it. I
Well,
don't know if we'll ever make it.
for me, mate, what you've just said there, it's part of the head scratch that we can never resolve. So when you are trying to complete your own jigsaw puzzle with all the pieces you've got to remember as well that all these things you just talked about is the same as some person outside of yourself, whether it's a media outlet, another person with an opinion, is trying to give you jigsaw pieces and saying, "Hey, don't you think this might fit here?" Or just, "Hey, look at this jigsaw piece." Now, you've got to ask, why are they giving me that jigsaw piece? Well, it could just be innocent. For them, that jigsaw piece is an integral part of the picture that they've built. They believe it's coherent. They're trying to sell you what they think is a useful piece. But you may not be building the same jigsaw. Everyone's building their own. Everyone is building their own. Ideally, at the end of it, say you look at Christianity in the church, you would hope that all the Christians in the churches who are legit are producing the same jigsaw. The sad fact of the matter is they're not, but they will still give you the piece. They'll peddle the piece that they think fits your situation. So what we're dealing with the news outlets and other stuff is you need to expect that decoyers will come, some sincere and some absolutely malevolent, trying to undermine you. You don't know which it is. All you can do is say, when I look at these, so let's go back to join the dots rather than jigsaw pieces. I've got these dots here, and they seem to be making a picture for me. So if I'm building that picture, any piece of a jigsaw, so I've just mixed my metaphor again, but this will have to bring it in, and somebody offers me a connection to another dot. If I test that and it fits in with only if it fits in with my picture, it can be considered useful if it brings something to my attention that I wasn't aware of before. But I got to test that new piece, see if it fits my system. If it doesn't, it has to be either rejected or you have to question your whole system that you've built already. Now, it's much easier to question that incoming piece if you've built well. It's much more likely that what you've built has got a consistency and a coherence. So that new piece coming in has got the capacity to turn your jigsaw puzzle pieces upside down and throw them all on the table. Now, that might need to happen. You might just have it completely wrong. But the likelihood, if you've built properly, is that it won't be. But if somebody gives you something that fits in with you and you test it, you can bring that in. So I think we have to be really careful when we take any advice, any guidance, any opinions, or when we watch any news reports. We've got to constantly, and this is what I mean about when you get up in the morning first thing, if you don't have your head about you and you've not got discipline and you've not got focus, you can get scatty. Oh, I'm a bit hungry. Oh, I'm a bit this. Oh, this happened. Oh, here's another distraction. Next thing you know, your day's gone. You've achieved nothing. There's all kinds of distractions that can take you off your path.
Oh, yesterday's trouble comes to your mind straight away, and before you've even thought of anything, you've gone and you're halfway down the path worrying about something that was from yesterday. You didn't put that foundation down. I have to do it now every morning. Sometimes it's a battle, Alex, because you're out of bed before you even think of, oh no, I need to do this now. The time I've spent away, it's been a real therapeutic, cathartic 2 weeks. You've got a lot of time to think. Again, I put all this world together, and the world's just playing out as it plays out. what I've got to now do is walk in the Spirit and try and do that more. Because if I come back to the world, there's nothing that can be fixed in the world. It's got to play out spiritually. We've got to change ourselves to see the change out here. Because if we start fighting out here, you live by the sword.
Totally, mate. So, yeah, I mean, what are we saying by that? I think we're saying that personal discipline in your life has never been more important than it has in these times. Regardless of what you believe the message is, we believe that the true and correct message that can transform life and everything is Jesus Christ. The centerpiece of everything, the central jigsaw piece. But that's obviously our perspective, and other people have to become convinced of that. They're quite at liberty with free will not to entertain it. But even if they don't, if they have coherence, there's a truth. There's a coherence to truth that is very, very difficult. If you look at like geometry, sacred geometry, fractals, we know that these patterns underlie the structure of reality, even though we can't see them. But they've been discerned. They were worked out mathematically in the Mandelbrot set. So if you can tune into those patterns and you can see the consistency of the patterns and recognize them and the crossover points, you've got a basis for discerning a lot of things. It's a reliable guide, a reliable means of navigating. But for that, you've got to have consistency yourself. You've got to have discipline. You've got to internalize something, because if you don't internalize from the core of yourself, you'll be led by every wave or every gust of wind that takes place outside of you. You will be led by your senses, by what appears to be the case. And just like we struggle to see ghosts, but they might be there, and there are many, many, anecdotal cases going since the beginning of time that people have seen ghosts, then you'll say, oh, well, no, you can't see ghosts, prove it to me. But yet there's loads of people who've seen ghosts. There's loads of testimonials down the centuries, across cultures, that this kind of thing happens. So if you don't attend to what you need to attend to, and you don't develop your own antenna, you will not be able to see anything beyond the surface appearance. Then what's real is just what appears to happen. That's why we're so suckerable by media, because, as I've said many times before, if you'd taken the plane footage of 9/11 and instead of making out that it was on ABC News, it was in some cinema, right, then the context would define whether you believed it was real or not. It could be exactly the same footage, but you would probably believe it if it was on the news because it was on the news. And you would believe it wasn't factual unless you were told otherwise, unless it was a documentary at the cinema. You would believe that footage to be fictional. So this is what we're dealing with, really. And we've got a responsibility, first and foremost, to discern those things appropriately. What context am I in? What appears to be happening? What are the other things that seem to be converging? What lines are coming together? That's our responsibility. It's hard work. But if you just decide to, drift, then you'll drift.
Well, when I've never seen spirit. When I was doing mediumship, I only had mental images that I would feel in my heart, and I would be able to discern them that way. But I do know people who've had very vivid experiences, to the point where they took this lady home after posting a card through a door for her and then dropping her off at home and helping her into her house. And they said, oh, there's no light in your hall. She says, oh, light bulb's gone. I said, well, we'll come back and we'll change that for you tomorrow. They went, couldn't get any answer, and his neighbour walking past and says, do you know if this lady's all right? Love, I've come to change a light bulb for her. She said she's been dead 3 months. And then he went and got back in the car, looked at his wife and went, you're not going to believe this. And to this day, they still can't work it out. So I know people see it, and I know these are genuine people. They don't make things up like this. I've always known there's something, there's a world that we just can't see. And if there's one thing for certain, whatever we want to call them, the people that at least feel that they are the elites and they lead this world, they believe in it. They believe in all these ceremonies. They believe in all these rituals. They believe in the transference of power, which is possibly invoking not a possession, but a demonic spirit to give this. If you go back to Nimrod, Nimrod was 2/3 God, 1/3 man, but he became that because of ritual. So we know that these things are done, Alex. They've been done in the past, but it's just now. That's all. Then it doesn't happen now. There aren't any satanic ritual practices going on. That's how we're taught it. And then if it's on the news, that's the precursor. The Tavistock Institute knew if they could get us here and put ourselves in this mental prison, we can't see what's going on in Syria or Israel or the Middle East or in the Ukraine. We have to be told it. And if you are only bothered or you only want your information from mainstream because you believe that's true, that's the same as a white coat syndrome. Somebody puts a white coat on and holds a clipboard, people believe them. This is the sad case. All these injections that people had, they had them at, they virtually had them at the post office. They had them at McDonald's for a free burger or a donut. Who was administering these? They did a 2-day course on how to inject somebody. Well, who's taking the liability now because of all these cases where people are crippled, people are injured from all this stuff? I saw, I think it was Australia, that the GPs have actually published a paper stating from all of the evidence it shows that there's been massive amounts of damage because of this rollout. So that is now factual. That is now a published paper for a GPs network in Australia. How many GPs sold these? One of my own GPs told me that the trouble that I was having at work over putting masks on, he told me the remedy was to have my vaccines. Just have your jabs, and then you won't need to wear a mask. Did you see anybody not have to wear a mask? No. They had 2, 3, 4, and they were still wearing masks. But once you sat down in a pub, you could take your mask off. This was absolute programming. It was absolute grooming from start to finish. 15 years working with offenders who were groomers, mate. There's no difference. They've just done it on a mass scale, and they thought, let's test it, see what happens. Now, they're starting to bring mask mandates and no-go zones now in this country because of bird flu. How many people are going to fall for this one?
Yeah. I mean, an interesting question to ask, because obviously there's a bit of a debate going on in the chat. Taylor wants to come on. Been a bit of jokes about no, don't let him on. But the thing is, we asked a question, and it's like, it might have seemed absurd a while ago, but let's ask the question, what's the difference between Donald Trump and Keir Starmer? Now, I know some people think it's all political theatre, all of it. Now, I just don't know. But what I do know for sure is that when someone is an out-and-out liar and tyrant and is visibly so, everybody can see it because they don't try and hide it. And everybody is amazed when that happens. How could this possibly happen? But what it does, it sets a standard for that being possible. Then somebody shows up who doesn't appear to be like that, who tells a lot of truths, who does 95% good things, and is much better than this tyrant. Then we don't look at the 5% of stuff they're going to bring in because it's called decoying. And the problem with humans who, and this comes back to what I was saying at the beginning, who don't prepare, who don't discern, and we could say, from a Christian point of view, be still and know that I am God. How are you going to discern anything if you're not looking deeper, feeling deeper, able to tune in? Because you just take things at face value. Now, if you take Keir Starmer at face value, a chimpanzee could work out that he's corrupt. Now, with Trump, he looks the opposite of corrupt. Therefore, automatically the equation is, hey, look at corrupt Keir. Look how Donald's going to bring him into line. Way, 3 cheers for Donald. But then the 5% of the areas that you're not hearing about yet, once it's established, like you say, America first, great policy based on everything that's been going on in the world, right? So there's nothing wrong. It's a rational, coherent policy. But then, oh well, along with that, we've got to correct some stuff. So a bit of overreach. We'll take Greenland off Denmark. We'll now, what was it we were hearing about? The ones who change the times and dates and calendars and change these things that have been markers for everybody in the world that they've navigated by for ages. Like you went to school, hey, in geography, let's go for Mexico. It isn't anymore. Well, who changed that? Well, one man. Well, why did he do that? Well, he provided rational grounds for doing so. All right. He produced rational grounds for confiscating Greenland off Denmark. And what were they? Well, it's an important mineral repository that will augment the power of the United States of America in its quest for world dominance over China, India, Russia, and the emerging powers in the East. Right. Oh, that's perfectly reasonable. Well, of course, from America's point of view, it's entirely reasonable. But in order to effect that, you've got to basically override the fact that Greenland just happens to be a territory of Denmark. That's a small, inconvenient factor that we might not want to look at. But when we do, Trump can say whatever. Well, this is important to make America great again. Yeah. Well, what about the free will of Denmark? What about the historical lines that we have in place? Same. The Danish said take it. Well, yeah, but on what basis did they say take it, Dennis? What political pressure do we see? So, again, someone's told you that Denmark said take it. Dennis, do you know what Denmark is? Do you know who that... It's all right saying the Danes don't give a F. The Danes, your average Dane isn't making a decision about Greenland. But I'm telling you what, if you had some possessions, Dennis, right, and you said, oh, well, you know, I'm not that bothered about them. And somebody goes, oh, you're not that bothered about them? Well, I'll steal them off you then. You go, it's all right. Yeah, I don't mind. You can steal things that I don't want. But then I don't want to steal. You live on the Danish border. Right. So does that qualify you because you live on the Danish border to talk about that as if you speak for Denmark? I think you'll find it doesn't. The bottom line is, right, that there is no such thing as Denmark in that sense. It's just a country that we relate to. But people within Denmark are key movers and players. And we don't see behind, right, you know a lot of Danes. Lovely. So what does that tell you apart from absolutely nothing? So the reality is there are key power players in Denmark who will be taking backhanders for making decisions like bungs in football. You know, bungs and football managers. I tell you what, if you do this deal, look how Manchester United has been hollowed out. He got married in Denmark as well. He's getting better. But Manchester United have been hollowed out by the Glazers. It was allowed to happen. It wouldn't happen again now because some predator came in, manipulated the rules and stole it off the fans. Now, Manchester United, that great institution, right, of world football, is going to struggle to overturn the cast iron grip that the Glazers have got, treating it like a cash cow. And it's because people make backhanders. They made a whip bank, took a loan, and it's, as we know the crack, and the rest is history. So there'll be people behind the scenes who will be saying, yeah, all right, mate, you just give me a mansion somewhere and it's fine, we'll okay it. So to me, the problem is not what Denmark do or don't do or say or don't say. It's the fact that Trump thinks it's appropriate to just say, yeah, we're going to redraw the map. We're going to redraw the map. We'll take this back. We'll do this, which used to be called acts of aggression. So, you know, if people roll over and go, it's all right, we don't mind. Okay, but I don't think everybody doesn't mind. I think there'll be a mix of opinion. So, you know, to me, what I'm saying is, I'm not really saying anything about Trump being, you know, really, really certainly dodgy. What I'm saying is, if we look at it superficially, we'll say it's inevitable that Trump is better than those lunatic lefties who were in for years. But it's just not necessarily true.
He did say that he wouldn't rule out the possibility of military intervention as well as sanctions in regards to Greenland. That was a specific question he was asked. And
yeah.
the reporters, because they're not used to hearing that kind of language, they were quite shocked. They were shocked that he wouldn't rule out military intervention. Now, you mentioned about that possibly being, touching on a declaration of war, or certainly putting pressure on it. Maybe the Danes are maybe hands have been shaken around a table that we don't know of yet, and this is playing out, a bit of bravado, I don't know, but we've seen declarations of war that is happening and nobody cares. The Ukraine war, I heard this week, there was a reporter on who was interviewing Joe Biden, and he said, why did you sign the Liquid Natural Gas Act, which stops us selling to our allies? So they rely on Putin's gas, which is fueling the Ukrainian war. Why did you stop that? And Biden said, I didn't sign that. He said, you did, sir. Yeah, they got the documents. And he went, I didn't know I'd signed that. So a president openly admitted that he'd signed off something that he didn't know what he signed. So there's a lot going on. When we look at Syria now, Israel have always occupied part of Syria and the Golan Heights. Then there was a buffer zone, which was the UN zone. Now that's where the insurgencies were all playing about in. Now there is no buffer zone because the Syrian government has left the building type thing. Damascus is being people. I'm reading reports from boots on the ground reporters that are saying all kinds of stuff is happening by these insurgencies. They're killing people, Syrians, left, right, and centre. Some for religious means, some for not joining them. This stuff isn't being reported on the mainstream, but there's no government in Damascus. Without a government, does a city cease to be? Are we just waiting for it to absolutely be smashed off the face of the planet? How do we look at this? Because Israel has been, shall we say, not thrown on the bus, but for the moment at least discarded, saying that's their war. It's not America's war. We're going to concentrate on us. Trump says that America is entering this new golden age. Keir Starmer comes out and goes, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, this is a study in decoying. You've got to keep your powder dry. You've got to watch. It's vital to watch. Everyone has an opinion. It's better to rule out certain things by a process of elimination than to conclude certain things, because as soon as you conclude something, it's like when we talk about, and you particularly focus a lot on the annoyance with the pre-tribulation rapture. As soon as people believe that, there's loads of stuff that they then can't accept because that becomes a framing condition for the whole narrative, the whole interpretation of everything. Same with Lucifer, and Satan being different characters. And if you don't read the Bible properly, then Lucifer is Satan. Then all these Luciferians and these light workers, what does it say? What in the Bible? It says the devil himself comes dressed as an angel of light. So he pretends to.
But he also,
he isn't.
What we were talking about though is it sets up Satan exactly how he wanted it to be. That nobody knows nobody believes he's real. Why? Well, they're pointing at Lucifer. It's not my fault. Satan stood in the courtroom saying they're all blaming Lucifer. It's not my fault.
And then, Paul, all the occultists can say, and next step, Lucifer is a light being, right? So we're all into light, love and light. Let's get in touch with the light beings. Let's call upon the light beings, because Lucifer's not Satan. Lucifer is a light being. Very nice.
It certainly switches things around a lot, doesn't it? When you've got 700 religions of Christianity that don't agree with each other and all disagree with the Bible, and how can you get people to go and look for themselves, Alex? Because, like I said, that Lucifer Satan thing, I've always heard people say Lucifer and Satan are the same, and then when you read the Bible verse, it's completely not. It tells you who he's the son of. And you think, yeah, that's it. How can you? We said it last week. That's Dave's lad. Oh, is it Tommy's lad? No, it's Dave's lad. Oh, he's definitely Tommy's lad then. What are you saying? I'm telling you whose son that is, and you don't believe it. And as I always say every week, the Bible is the only truth that I've found that hasn't been debunked. You can debate it and argue it. You can pick scriptures here, left, right, and centre and say, look at these that I've got together. These all believe what I believe. But when you put the rest of the scriptures to that, it tells you not. It tells you something completely different. You can't take some scriptures and discard the rest. You have to take it all or not at all. If you don't take it all and you don't believe it, then you are where you're at. I understood what the story was. I understood what the remedy was. But the impossibility for me at that time was to believe. How do you just believe? There's nothing for. I can understand it, but how do I believe? I couldn't have done that without that. It is done. I couldn't have done it because then, as soon as I started to read and ask questions, I was getting told answers here. That's why when somebody from outside says the Holy Spirit told me to tell you, nope, nope, we're not having that. The Holy Spirit will tell me unless I'm going completely wrong, because when you tell me, it will convict me. If it's been sent to me, it'll convict me. But then when I say that's not what I feel, then it's my pride. So again, it's me that's got to be wrong. Oh, that's your pride because people have always told you you're wrong. People have always told me that I've been wrong about certain things. Chemtrails 10 years ago, now it's just normal. It's just weird, mate, that you sit with people who called you names and laughed at you, and then they realise that Dubai's underwater and it's because they've been causing it to rain. And then they come and tell you as if it's a revelation of theirs. Hey, do you know that they can make it rain? No, I'll go to the foot of our stairs, do they? It's humility at the end of the day, Alex. If you can't be humble enough to accept where you've got your information from, and then your information cannot be challenged, I will have my information challenged based upon good information, not because it is.
Yeah, well, interestingly, Paul, can you highlight Dennis's last statement in the chat about Mary and put it on the screen?
About Mary?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right, so I'm not quite clear where that question's coming from, whether it's a bit of bedevilment. But since we're on it, it's a good illustration. Nobody can prove, right? So there's an account in the Bible that claims that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a virgin. Anybody could claim that that's a fictional thing and isn't true. You cannot prove it from first principles. It's a statement. Was Mary a virgin? Nobody can prove it just from the statement alone or disprove it. But what we've got, Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, which is proto-Isaiah, 750 years before Christ, because there are 3 Isaiahs in the book, proto, deutero, and trito-Isaiah. And this section is from proto-Isaiah, early on, Isaiah 7. And so you're talking several centuries before Jesus Christ. It talks very clearly. God says that basically a virgin will conceive and will bring forth a son who will be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. So we do know that in the Old Testament book of Isaiah, this prophecy was made. So again, you can say, well, that doesn't prove anything. It just proves it was in the Bible. So then you have to say that's either a false prophecy or a true prophecy. Then some people say, well, Jesus read Isaiah and the narrative was shaped to fit in with Isaiah. Just like a lot of people say today, the oligarchs and elites know about Revelation and the prophecies. And so what they're doing, they're making everything look like that to sucker the Christians to believe so that they'll all wait for Jesus, do nothing, and get routed. Now, you can't escape those types of argument. It's very, very difficult to escape them on paper. You've got to look much deeper to answer those questions, and I'm not going to go much deeper at this time unless there's further interest in exploring it. But superficially, it's part of the same problem. Claims are made, cannot be verified from their own terms of reference. You need something outside the claim to back it up. So the claim in the New Testament that Jesus was born of a virgin, his mother Mary, the support for that is in another scripture, Isaiah 7:14, that said it would happen. And you can question that, and so it goes on. You can question everything. I mean, the Bible was written by men or rewritten or edited, and so it goes on. So at some point, Very difficult to get your cast iron proofs. Those people who don't want to believe, who don't want to see a coherent picture, will keep arguing like a dog scratching vainly at the earth with no purpose. Yeah, there's no truth. Yeah, we can't verify anything. Yeah, of course we can't. Objectively, we can't. So at point, faith comes. You've got a certain amount of evidence, certain number of pointers, certain sort of direction that appears, but you've still got to test it. And at the end of the day, you've got to commit to something if you don't have something cast iron. There's no way of escaping that. So,
the curse.
Go on, pal.
I'm just going to say the curse that fell upon man and all the land and all flesh, animals, the lot, that bled in sin. So that meant because we want the knowledge of good and evil, we have to experience when we do something good, we have the consequence in this world. When we do something bad, we have the consequence of this world. It's now our emotions that decide what we're doing because we're never clear, because we're not taught to have that clarity. So we've been tossed to and fro on these emotions. That's why the Old Testament is so bloody-minded. Don't do that. If you do that, stone them to death, because this is how bad it becomes for the nation. It's not just your own personal. It's when everybody's committing that sin together, it just gets worse and worse, and it gets to the point where this world has to be judged, and God will not have any iniquity, no sin in his presence. So those, when they're so far gone and the hearts are so hard they can't come back, then they are judged. That's the laws of this world. It's not that God just decides who he's going to judge and do. It's all up to us and our free will. Don't do that because it leads to this. But if you want to do it, I won't stop you doing it because I love you. You have free will. So you have to make that decision yourself. And if that fall, and I know it is, but if that fall's true, and therefore the curse is true, that means all flesh is corrupt. That means the sinless human sacrifice of blood that is needed to take that sin out, no man can do it. That's the story of the Bible. No man can do it. So that no man could boast that, see, I did it, I'm better than you, so that can't happen. God came to a virgin, and there was only that DNA from the mother and not the DNA from the father, just the divine intervention. That meant that Jesus came into this world with a clean slate, but humbled from the God-man, humbled to be a man, so he could be like me and you, Alex. So he would get tempted with everything that we get tempted with, but he overcomes all of that to the point where Satan offers him everything, and he just quotes Bible back to him. So if that isn't true, because when he went to that cross and he says it's finished, that meant all that sin, all that work that the devil had done is a moot point now. And Jesus died, rose from the dead, and went to sit at the right hand where he's in authority now. He's not going to come back and reign for 1,000 years. He's reigning now. When he comes back, according to Scripture, it's forever. So there we have to start the debate about millennial reigns, pre-trib raptures. Chubby Checker couldn't twist this stuff better than some of these people I've been speaking to. I go off what it says in the Scripture. That's me rock. If you say that in the Bible is wrong, that in the Bible is corrupt, then that's where me and you part company, because that's the truth I've found. So I'm going to stick with that, because all the liars and all the religions that disagree with each other and possibly hate each other, they all agree that that Bible's wrong, because Jesus is not the only way. We have our schools teaching that everybody goes to God. If the Bible's true, then everybody's wrong, and that means everybody's in trouble. If the Bible's not true, Alex, we all go to heaven and have a laugh about this afterwards. Hey, you believe there was only one way. Look, he came on a bike, he came on a bus, he came on a plane, we're all here. But what if the Bible's right and you've not read it? And then you stand there on that day and you're thinking, what's going on? Right, now you're here for judgment. Well, I've been a good man, really. How many lies have you told? Oh, one or two. Have you ever stolen anything? A bit. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust? Yeah. Have you ever gone round shagging about? Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah, yeah,
Then
exactly.
you're convicted, and the judge will give you the sentence that you're due. But if somebody's paid all the fines that you were going to get for that, the judge can let you go. So who would you want stood in the dock on
Yeah,
your
no,
judgment? Jesus
totally.
will stand there and say, I know this man, let him go. But what if you're stood there and you say, Jesus, did I not do all this in your name? You never read me words. You was doing this, you was doing that. But what about this, what I asked you to do? Didn't matter. And that matters a lot. You've got to, it's not a thing, you're not going to be made perfect. None of us can be perfect. We've got to strive for that. And it's precept on precept, line upon line, building it up. It's taken me 8 years to realise that I had to start doing that from the morning to try and set a foundation. When you've got traumas that have been brought up and everything, Alex, you know yourself, it becomes so torturous. You don't want to leave the house sometimes. When you're caught in that washing machine, it's very easy for somebody like yourself to get, just give it to the Lord. Thanks. I'd not thought of that, Alex. Thanks. But that's what I have to do, but I have to find a way to let go of what is making those emotions. Who's playing that guitar? Who's playing that tune that's making me angry? I want a more melodic tune. Remember that David, when Saul would get all upset, he'd start plinking about on his, I forget what
It was a
instrument,
harp.
was it a harp?
It was a
Starts,
harp to soothe against an evil spirit. Yeah.
yeah, so he plinks about on that, and Saul goes, oh, that's better. Oh, I feel so, oh, David, I like you now. You know, it's that type of thing. But the music I used to listen to, good riffs. I mean, bloody hell, I love some of those guitar riffs. But it doesn't half pick you up, make you feel those emotions. It can make you angry. It can be so succinct to the stuff that's going on in your life. How many people I've heard say, "Oh, that song is the anthem for my life," type thing, and it's like, you know, I knew one girl. She would listen to a song called "Unbreak My Heart" over and over and over again, and she'd sit there and cry through it. And I said, "Why do you talk to yourself like that?" It's like she wanted to feel bad and couldn't see how to get up.
Yeah. I mean, is there any chance we could go back a bit now in the chat, because there's been a lot of comments, to Taylor's comment about fifth generation warfare? Because there's some people asking for him to come on, but just go back to his comment on the fifth generation warfare. It's quite a way back, because this is where he talks about people being too sort of blind to be able to see that this. So what he's effectively saying, from what I can tell, is that there's a new type of warfare that's emerged, and ultimately that's what's going on through Trump, and he's undermining traditional methods of warfare. And now, actually, interesting, if that's true, we don't even have to determine whether it is true, then he could just be seen as totally shifting the game. Totally shifting the game. And then his approach on Ukraine, Israel, and everything else, it might seem as if it's peace, but actually that's proving the point. It's a different type of war. Now, what is war about? Is war about gaining a competitive advantage for you and yours, for your country? Well, that's okay, but at what cost? So the thing with AI and technology now is, when they talk about artificial general intelligence and augmented humans, super soldiers, the current up-to-date thinking that's been in place now for probably about 4 years with documentation, Ministry of Defence, German Ministry of Defence equivalent, is that all humans are assets. So you talk about human resource management. We're all platforms, and our platforms need to be maximised. So do you want to be wearing infrared glasses, or do you want to have ocular implants? Do you want to, again, Musk's Neuralink, So we're talking about transhumanism, and that would be a way of understanding that it's fifth generation warfare. Now, if we just say it's fifth generation warfare, well, that's just a statement. Is fifth generation warfare, if that's what it is, a good thing or not? Well, people are asking the question, is AI a good thing or not? And a lot of the answers come from fear. You know, augmentation, is that a good thing or not? If we could have mechanical hearts that never wore out and mechanical organs, but we were synthesis between, you know, these artificial organs in our bodies, and we could live a lot longer, if not forever. Some people would think that's a wonderful thing. Other people will be horrified. So again, there's a bunch of value judgments that are implied. Now, as Christians, we would say, yeah, that step is defying the Creator, is trying to transcend the Creator, is trying to live forever, which is exactly what the serpent whispered in the ear of Eve. Oh, you won't die, because God knows that in that day that you eat thereof, you should be like God. So he incentivized it. You won't have the constraints that human beings have of death. You'll be like God. So a lot of people, like Musk, have got this God complex thing going on. And what they mean by what they're talking about is different than what we might think it means. So you've got all this lost in translation stuff. What do they mean? What do we make of that? Do we mean the same thing? So it's extremely complicated territory. It isn't black and white, because some technological innovations are definitely good. Just like the Industrial Revolution, look at the Luddites, smashed up the machines and said it's terrible this, it's awful this. But if you look at what machinery enabled us to do in the Industrial Revolution, it brought about many of the gains that was a step forward. So you can't just say it's all bad, because then we'd all just be living, going back into nature, and like the two peasants in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail scene, you know, we're going to be there sifting through mud and going, let's go retro, brilliant, we don't need kings. Yeah, let's live like this. Yeah, and then there's no supermarkets and no shopping malls and no consumerism. But there's also many other things that, you know, we're not going to have mastery over our environment. So technological developments, a tool, a spade is technology. We just don't think it's particularly impressive now. At one time, if you possessed a spade and nobody else did, you could dig a hole that nobody else could much faster. You had a competitive advantage. Nobody starts slagging spades off and saying, look at this terrible development. So it isn't as simple as people make out.
You're right, mate. It's and again, people make assumptions about other people, right? I was referred to as a free man of the land. You've seen the work I've done. There's no free man in it whatsoever. But people say that, and then people become dismissive about the stuff that I'm talking about. Very easy to say, oh, you need to be in therapy, you've not got over losing your house. Go through something like that and then get over it, because I'm pretty sure that people have got a lot worse that they need to get over, and people have got a lot less that they still can't get over. Those people still need therapy. Do you see what I'm saying? It's very easy for people to throw stuff about, and especially if you're trying to be funny about it. But these have affected people's lives. I know 2 people personally who have topped themselves over it. So they should have just had therapy and been all nicey. And it's not a sin to not pay for stuff that you've already paid for. But to expose evil, that's what you're meant to do. That's what we try and do. There's nothing that I can do about battling it. I stood there in courts, face to face with these people. They used armed police. I saw all this. Very easy to get over all that, isn't it, mate? It's something that you've got to try and deal with and process, as well as everything that comes from before that. You know, from your childhood, that stuff that you need to look back on, the stuff where you put all your trust in these people that lied to you. It's very easy to go, oh, it's all right, I'll just get on with it. We'll do this, we'll do that. Well, the world's closing in. And I'm, what do I do? Should I just go and sit? Should I go to the Tibet? Should I go to the monks in Tibet, learn meditation and chakras, mate? Is that what I should do?
I think we need to make a distinction here, because otherwise we end up talking at cross purposes. There's a difference between the types of problems that a lot of people undergo in life, like, you know, things that just crop up unexpectedly, or certain things that happen that prejudice your life chances, that can happen all the time. You know, you could cross the road tomorrow and get knocked over. A tree could fall on you. But some incidents, some things that happen are traumatic. Other things are not so. They're just part of the baggage, part of the pain, things that need to be resolved, and you might need to shift your circuits around a bit, change your perspective on it. So a lot of the time we say for CBT that is not for trauma enables you to reconfigure the picture. And hypnosis, similarly, can reprogram some of your circuits in a low arousal state. So that doesn't have to be because you're traumatized. So, for example, if you're struggling with an addiction, you're struggling to stop smoking, hypnotherapy can do certain things that enables you to switch that switch. Now, some hardcore Christians say hypnotherapy is demonic. Everything's demonic then that isn't according to a certain prescription. So personally, I think there's lots of technologies humans have developed, not just spades and other tools, but hypnotherapeutic tools enable us to go deeper. But with trauma is a specific impact on the brain. It's kind of a brain injury. It shrinks the hippocampal volume and affects short-term memory in particular. People who've been traumatized often get into repetitive mantras because they try to tell a story that their brain can't resolve. So it keeps trying to solve the story. Yeah. It can't get the piece of the jigsaw. And more to the point, often the missing piece of the jigsaw isn't just a theoretical or abstract concept. It's real-world justice that they can't get. So in a way, it's like even your day in court isn't necessarily an answer, because what people who've been traumatized, sometimes they've had their faith in the human condition utterly destroyed. And as soon as they encounter new human beings, it's impossible for their brain, without those therapeutic interventions, to not see that other person as a threat. That requires deep, specialized trauma-based work, and it's completely different to other therapeutic interventions.
You're right. You know, you yourself, Alex, know that those interventions that I needed, unless I want to kill myself, aren't available financially for me. So I will then have to find my money to go and do that. So it's not as easy as flippant remarks try and make out. There's a lot of trauma that's gone on, but it's not trauma because I lost my house. It's trauma because of the lies that is based on, because my mum taught me these things. My mum taught me that you've got to stand up for yourself if you believe you're right. I didn't just believe, I knew. I had the documents for it. I had the documents to prove that these people couldn't have a claim on my house unless I'd acted in a certain way. And I have acted in a certain way. And they took the house because they could, because they have all authority over commerce. My house was classed as a possible commercial property. They just dealt with it as that. The problem was when you put that to them and you made them look at it with case law, they turned the case law over and said, I can't see that. So, brilliant, isn't it? Let's just go to the doctors, get a bit of therapy. Oh no, let's go and find somebody who's private who can bring all the stuff out of me and I'll be fine. Yeah, that's great. But this world is still twisted. This world is still evil. It's time to expose that. If I've gone through that for nothing, then I've still got to process it and do something afterwards. You know?
Yeah, this is it. I mean, everything that happens in life, sometimes you choose and sometimes you have a hand dealt to you. And whatever you've had dealt to you that was outside of your control, like, for example, you look at generational curses in the Old Testament, you know, and I shall visit the iniquity of the fathers to the sons, down to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. Oh dear, that's not very promising. Sometimes, you know, you can look at that as an unjust God, or you can say, well, actions have consequences right down the line. So it's not that it was done intentionally. It's like there are certain spiritual laws that if you do this, this might happen. The only people who are beyond these rules are psychopaths, because they just don't observe any rules. So at the end of the day, that we're living in a world where actions have consequences, and sometimes innocent people get caught in the crossfire. It shouldn't happen in a world that's just, but we don't live in a perfectly just world. We live in a world where there's a lot of evil, and we don't have control over much of it. So we can only do what we can do, and then throw ourselves on the mercies of things outside of ourselves. And what are those things? They might be therapists, but then again, there's therapists and therapists. How do you identify the right therapist at the right price at the right time? That in itself is an art. And then beyond that, we've got God Almighty, the Creator. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. Sometimes it's you're on your knees, you're in prayer, you're agonized. All this pain is refining your soul, and you persevere. And God does some work in a way you don't understand. Other times he says, go to the therapist. I'll give you a simple solution. Don't ask me to feed you by dropping a miracle of food, a food parcel down your chimney. Go to the supermarket, get the food. There's certain things you can do. But the point comes when you can't do it. You're thrown on the mercies of things outside of yourself. You have no locus of control. The question is, what are those things? Are they human political heroes? Are there solutions which look attractive on paper and that you're wishful thinking? I wish it could be like this. Meanwhile, back on planet Earth, it never is. You have to wake up quickly. Question is, if you can't put it right yourself, who are you going to rely on? And if you're not relying on God, right, and the true one, because here's the issue. There's loads of different versions of God, and there's lots of different interpretations of reality, and all bar one of them are not correct.
Yeah. It's, for a fact, you've known me a long time, and you know how I've worked through all this. There was no help for me. Family and friends left me to it. If there isn't you, if I'd have been waiting on the NHS, mate, and that was a reliance on me being alive, every therapist I've met who've apologised for the long wait, I've said to him, I says, if I was relying on you lot, no disrespect, I possibly wouldn't even be here. I said, so I've had to look here, there and everywhere. I knew medications wouldn't work for me. It was weird, the medication they put me on. The only ounce of control I had was drinking, because sometimes I couldn't, sometimes I wouldn't stop till I passed out. But then there's other times where I just drank to take the edge off, and then I didn't need to drink. That was therapy, mate. I got to the point where I didn't need that. Then all this kicks off again, which mentally throws me back. So now I'm dealing with it all over again. All the old scars, all the traumas of realising I shouldn't have been paying bills, all that came back again. And you get people who want to throw flippant remarks at you because a lot of people are sick of hearing about it. Well, when something like that happens to people need to talk about it, like you were saying. That's why I didn't care if they just gave me a different counsellor every 7 weeks or whatever, as long as they just gave me somebody new to get this out. Because once it's out, once it's written down, once it's done on a video, it was all therapy. The last gas electric video I did it just before all the bills went up, and I knew that everybody would start watching it, everybody would start contacting me because they wanted to get out of paying, and that's not what you're doing. You're acting correctly. If you act correctly, you balance the books. If you balance the books, the national debt goes down. But we're taught the opposite. That's normal. If that's not worth talking about, then I'm sorry, but there's not much for you. If that's all you've got is pouncing about in life and just try and make fun of things, and then just do what you normally do every day without trying to tell people or do something different. How many times have I said to you, Alex, I don't know where to go from here now. 53 years old, what direction do I go in? I'm just stuffed. I've got all this knowledge nobody's interested in. But then you get loads of people who are interested, and then they go off and start talking about I've no contract. So we go back to what didn't work 10 years ago. It's bonkers. It's now we've got a case ongoing, and it's the same thing that just keeps coming back. Now, that would have been a test for me, Alex. Bear in mind, I've stood toe-to-toe with barristers and QCs in court and been fine. But I get an email from a debt recovery and I'm going, that's nothing, That's not what my emotions are telling me, because that is completely distorted because of the trauma. So now I have to go back to that trauma and heal it out. And it's taken me 4 years because of what happened through work and then coming up to this. And you shouldn't talk about that now. Wow. It's just bonkers that people who are under therapy tell me I need therapy. It's ace. It's ace. It can only happen in this world, mate.
Well, at the end of the day, we've got to soldier on and keep doing the right thing, put one foot in front of another. We've got some plans. We'll be following through. We might end up talking about them in the coming weeks if things go according to plan, but it's hush hush. Got to keep the secrets, see where it goes. But I was just thinking about a slight change of pace. I think we've done a pretty good job of covering a lot of the bases, and I know I've been saying for a while about Taylor coming on. There've been a couple of calls from him coming on. He's got his 5th generation warfare thing. If he's still around, maybe he could come on and explain that, and then maybe after he's done that, maybe a couple of us might want to come on, and we can see out the last 3/4 of an hour in dialogue, perhaps.
We shall see.
We'll see what happens.
He might be emptying his bunker out.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Well, if he comes on in a Biden mask,
well, he's actually
I'll be surprised. That would be a surprise if Taylor comes on in a Biden mask. Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened, especially with Taylor. He did email me last week. He was asking about having a permanent segment. Well, if he wants a permanent segment, he's going to have a better setup and not be lying on his bed with his phone wobbling about everywhere, and show us some stuff, share screen. Because I can see in the chat room that every time he's trying to get his point across, he says, watch this video. People want more than just say, watch this video.
Yeah,
I know that because over the years I've tried everything to get people interested. You possibly bribing them. If you offered them a $5 to watch it, they'd all do it. But it's easy to watch something and not understand it. It's easy to read the Bible and not understand it. I've read that Bible before in bits, but I didn't understand it until you read it to want to understand it. That's a difference. There's a massive difference in reading to understand, rather than read to just read. That's why I think a good way for somebody who if they've not got any preconceived ideas, about anything with the Bible, or they can come to the Bible with an open mind and open heart. It's read the Bible as if you're reading Harry Potter. Let it speak to you. Let it speak to you and see. That's the only way for me I could read the Bible. I had to read it as if I've never read it before, and I had to ask questions when it stopped and started. It was put on me last night when I was at the van, Samuel 1 Samuel 1 to 23. And I can't tell you what doors. I'll discuss that with you offline. But the doors that it opened up here. Remember when you left the caravan and we were debating about, well, if Lucifer's not Satan, and oh no, it opens up this can of worms because there's a lot of theology that can be off. Here he is, the CIA himself.
He's just the CIA. Is that because he is lounging on his bed and he doesn't want to put the video camera on?
Hey, I mean, that's up to you, man. I mean, would you want me to have the camera on or off? I'm fine either way.
As long as you're not sat there naked.
No, I'm not sitting there naked.
Hey, I don't know what you do with your anime stuff, mate. See that camera angle there. All I can see is you look like Chad, mate. What no camera? There you go. If you want to be a segment on this show, get professional, because when you do your videos and you're not on camera, you articulate things really well. I've always said this to you, mate. You know your research, you know your information, and you can articulate. The only criticism I've ever had is putting your eggs into a basket. Let's keep an egg or two back. Let's say, oh well, that's running for now, and let's see where it goes. So if you can get set up like that, I'll give you a segment every week, but I want you to come on and tell us. So here's your chance. Tell us, Taylor, what's going on? What's going down?
Well, first of all, let me address the whole not sitting in a proper position. See, my lower back starts to hurt if I sit in one position for too long, so I end up having to move around a bit. So that does hinder me a little bit. And to answer your question, though, oh boy, oh man, it's been great. It's been absolutely fantastic. That's all I can say, man. He's not even a weekend, and things are so much, and so many good things have already happened. Yeah, same thing in the chair. It doesn't matter what I'm sitting in. It's the same result either way. I can't sit in one position for too long. It hurts. It hurts my back.
Maybe you could stand up for your segment, like a weatherman or something.
Or chiropractic.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a decent idea, actually. Yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe I didn't think about that. Actually, I could try that. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you see me like moving around a bit, that's the reason why.
That's fine, mate. As long as you've got pants on.
Yeah, I have freaking pants on. Maybe, yeah. Oh, fuck. Okay, so by the way, if you notice, I haven't really are you on PIP? What is that?
Oh, that's a UK personal independence payment. It's a benefit that the government pays out. If you've got a disablement of any type, it helps you to live more independently. I don't know if that was tongue in cheek when he said that, actually, because he knows you're from the States. But we'll let him off.
Yeah, fair enough. Either way, I don't mind either way. But oh man, yeah, we left the World Health Organization. We left the World Health Organization. We've left the EPA. We've left the Paris Climate Accord. We got the documents for the Kennedy assassinations being getting released, and we got the so-called hostages taken care of. Oh man, it's been we got a great first week going on here, and we're not even technically a weekend. It's only been 6 days. That's absolutely.
Have we heard what was in Biden's letter to Trump yet?
I honestly don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know, and I don't really.
When he was signing executive orders, one of the reporters said, "Has President Biden not left you a letter in the drawer of the desk?" Because that's what.
Yeah, I seen that bit.
Yeah, well, he found the letter. He went, "Oh, that's interesting. We'll have to read it. Let everybody know it." So I just wondered whether you'd heard that bit.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, he's sitting at the desk. He has the smile on his face. I know about that. Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, personally, I'm not really interested in what it says, just because it's not really Biden anyway. It's an actor, so it's all part of the operation. It's all part of the game. So whatever it says, it's all part of the it's all part of the movie. So it doesn't really matter to me. It's like,
so what's coming next, Taylor? What's coming next in the next week, in the next month?
Well, I can't predict the future, so I can't tell you exactly when everything will happen. But I can give you a grand overview of what to expect.
Okay.
It's best not to make exact date predictions.
Absolutely.
It never goes over well. But yeah, so what we should see is the what's what I'm looking for? The optics for the so-called Ukraine war and the Israeli conflict will be taken care of. And when I say optics, because that whole thing's was taken care of years ago. So it's just wag the dog at this point. it's all a matter of just play acting for the public, so that way that they feel satisfied. Oh, he's a hero. He saved the world from the he saved the Ukraine. Oh, he fixed the Middle East problem. Yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, it's already been done. It's just you got to play it out optically. It's just like the arrests. You have to play it out optically for the public to see it. That way they can be more on board for the other stuff that's coming. Like 9/11 truth and the truth about the banking system. I don't watch The Simpsons. I tried watching that garbage. It's not even funny.
Simpsons. I'll tell you what, mate. You're far too easily thrown off track.
I was going to say you're getting get the wind up merchants, Taylor. You're going to have to like water off a duck's back.
I mean, what's going to what? Like we're 26th. We're 26 now. So what shall we expect in February?
In February, to be exact. Again, don't want to give exact dates, but we know that coming soon, we're definitely getting we're getting all the Kennedy files released. We're getting all the MLK files released. The executive order on that was already passed. Okay. Well, just to ask, do you want me to address those comments whenever they appear on the screen, or are you just putting them there just for the sake of it?
I put them there so that me and Alex can see them, see what's going on in the chat room. If you want to address them after you finish your points.
Yeah. Just give us your take first, and then make notes if you got a pen of any interesting questions, and come back to them at the end.
Fair enough. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so yeah, so what I was saying, yeah, so we should be expecting the Kennedy files revealed, the MLK files revealed. I'm gonna be honest though, I want the Malcolm X files revealed too, man. I'm not sure if there's any files on that still remaining, but if there is, I want those revealed too. I like Malcolm X. It's a lot better than freaking Marxist loser King. So, yeah, that's something I personally want, but who knows if that'll happen.
He doesn't mind upsetting genres of people, does he?
No, not really. I mean, you gotta say what you gotta say, and if people get upset about that, that's just that's on them. I can't control how people react to what I say. So at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. But yeah. The aside from that, we should be getting the optic end, as I said, of the Ukraine and the Gaza conflicts. And after that, we should see a true peace in the Middle East with Netanyahu taken down optically anyway, and then there'll either be a two-state solution with both of them having an independent state, or it'll be just or it will just be one big Palestine like it was before, where the Palestinians are the majority, as it was back before 1948. That's the plan.
Would that not mean that the Israelis are going to give up their plan for a greater Israel?
Oh, Greater Israel's dead. That's been dead. That's just been dead for years. Man, and thank goodness too, because as you know, there's always been two sides to the deep state coin. There's been the ultra Zionists, the Israeli firsters, the Greater Israels, the Netanyahus, the Bush people, those kind of people. And then on the other hand, you had the globalist type people like the George Soroses, the Clintons, the Obamas, etc. You had two sides of the same coin, and both of them have been dismantled completely. And as far as the Greater Israel Project is concerned, you have to thank Trump for that, because he dismantled all their weapons. I think I've gone over it here on the channel before, but I'll just reiterate for everyone's sake. He dismantled the ISIS, which is the Israeli Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. Don't believe that garbage about, they came back and they took down Assad of Syria randomly. Ha 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 ha. Anyone with two brain cells should be able to tell you that's just nothing more than just optic nonsense. Because but anyway, So about he took down ISIS, disabled their funding literally within 1 week of his first term. That's a big thing because he saved he saved the Middle East from a World War III hotspot. He disabled the Korean conflict. One thing people don't understand about the Korean conflict, and I'm not talking about you guys specifically, but just everyone, but just people in general, is that the Korean War from the early 50s never ended. It was just a ceasefire. Any president could have just snapped his fingers and been like, we're reactivating that. And that's what they were planning to do. And with I'll mention this real quick. Have you ever heard of the Asian pivot?
The Asian
pivot.
Yes, the Asian pivot. You ever heard of it?
Involving India?
No, this is revolving all of Asia. This
Right.
I assume you guys haven't heard of it. So basically, Obama, when he left office, he circled around Asia and put it in a position where they were encircling Russia and China, and he was arming up the Philippines, Guam, Japan. He told Japan to get rid of their non-aggression treaty, their non-aggression treaty after World War II, and say go ahead and start building your arms up because we're going to start a war with China. And then just before he left office, George Soros said that if China doesn't do what we say, there's a real possibility of World War III. And other countries, Vietnam, etc., Korea, South Korea, etc. Like Obama was arming these people up to the teeth, getting them ready for Hillary Clinton to come in and finish the job, which was the original plan.
Hillary Clinton.
Yep, Hillary Clinton. She's dead. She's gone. Thank God.
I saw her at Trump's inauguration, mate. She was sat there with Bill.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that the entire inauguration, there's a reason why they held that inside. Have you wondered why they held it inside instead of outside like normal?
Well, the rumours was of another assassination attempt.
Well, yeah, I guess there's that, but the main excuse they gave was that it's cold outside.
It was cold.
Yeah, it's 27, and which is actually warmer weather than it usually is that time of year in that area. So that's just an optic excuse. The real reason that they had it indoors was because they wanted to make sure that only the operatives were there in order to make sure that everything went down clearly. Because we're still in the middle of a movie. This movie, the White Hat movie has not ended yet. Just because Trump is optically back in office, we don't even know if that was even really Trump there at the inauguration. It could have been someone else. You always got to look out, because there's so many different versions of Trump. There's 5'8" Trump. There's 6'1" Trump. There's young looking Trump. There's grizzly looking Trump. There's so many different Trump actors at this point. You can just tell by looking at them. Like, there are times where he's shorter than Elon Musk and taller than him, and just it's just it's hard to tell when it's actually the real man. But but as far as the whole not touching the Bible thing, I saw people were asking about that in the chat. Well, I can't give you a definitive answer on that.
Hang on. You said in the chat there's a good reason, and I said,
yeah, there's a good reason.
What is that good reason?
Yeah, the good reason. Well, first of all, again, how do we know? How do we know that it's Trump? If it's not Trump, then obviously we wouldn't want an actor playing Trump to put his hand in the Bible and swear an oath to the Constitution, to the country, and to the Bible, because that would be sinful. But also, and this is more important, now, something that people don't seem to remember is that JFK also did not put his hand on the Bible during his inauguration in 1961. So that's a calm. If you go back and look, what?
Because he's Catholic.
Well, yeah, just like Denny.
See, the thing is, right? You're saying if that's not Trump, that's why he didn't put his hand on the Bible. If it wasn't Trump, that clone or whatever, I don't know whether you're saying it's somebody in a mask that looks like Trump, because I know that the masks can look very real. I've seen a TED talk with the CIA operative wearing a mask and nobody knew. So I can understand, especially when we're so far away and we only get camera angles.
Yeah.
But if it was a lookalike who he could have put his hand on the Bible, because it wouldn't have been him that would be sinning. It would have been other people. So it still gives that propensity to be able to do whatever they want to do and commit that sin. I'm not sure about Trump. Trump says he's a Christian, but me and Alex we're starting to redefine the term Christian, aren't we, pal?
Well, are we? Yeah, of course we are. Because at the end of the day, there's a standard interpretation. If you look at what happened in that follow up to the inauguration in that church, they had a Hindu in, they had a Sikh in, they had that liberal lefty female bishop talking about social justice, a social justice warrior, perverting the Bible.
God.
So ultimately,
now that was funny. Trump and Vance's reactions. That was quite amusing.
Yeah,
that was fun. That was fun watching that. I like that. Seeing a far lefty bishop getting what's coming to him. It's funny.
Go on, Alex.
Well, no, I just think that obviously there was a hybrid there that Trump wasn't entirely comfortable with, and Vance certainly wasn't. And if you look at what's happening with the Pope and Roman Catholics now, and they've opened up the Vatican, and in their inner sanctum, they've got different religions. He's saying openly that all ways to God are equally valid. It seemed like that would align with the type of thing that we saw in that situation where they were trying to accommodate these other faiths, these other religions. So there's definitely this one world religion thing is definitely going to be looming, where everyone can have a spirituality, everyone believes in a generic God, but everyone's ways are equally valid, unless you preach something that's a problem to them, and Jesus Christ is a stumbling block. So any true focus on Jesus Christ will be rejected as exclusivist and oppressive to all these other religions.
What would you say to T42, Taylor, when she says that someone said Trump had converted to Judaism? Now, I've seen him at the wall. I've seen him with it. Stop shaking your head while I'm talking. He's got his skull cap on. He's at the wall. His face is on Israeli coins. Is that all part of the plan that he's pretending?
Oh my God. I still think it's funny that people still fall for that whole pro-Zionist and pro-Judaism thing. But anyway, I'll address the question directly. Yeah, it is, because that's, have you ever heard of the phrase, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer?
Of course.
Exactly. You play into their hands. You make them see. The thing is that what Trump did was so brilliant, and I would have done the same thing myself. He played up the optics so much and said so much stuff that was pro-Israeli that the regular Israeli people, they love him. They love him more than Netanyahu. He's more popular than Netanyahu in Israel. So so the Christian, the Jewish nationalists, they love him because of all the things and all the optics that he said. Putting his hand on the wall and, acknowledging the Golden Heights as Israeli and all, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, all of this optic stuff, they love it. And so they think that he's their man, because you have to appease the evangelical Christians who have been brainwashed by the Schofield Reference Bible. That's 30 million plus, and they're mostly Republicans. So if he alienates them, you lose your base. That's it. So that's the thing. and as I've said before, there's more. I've already provided proof that before on the show and on my channel that Trump destroyed the Zionist cause as well as the globalist cause as well, because as I said before, they're two different factions. For example, George Soros and Netanyahu always hated each other because of the way they did things. That's just one example. But yeah. You got to get over that. You got to get over the whole optics thing about him just putting his hand on the wall saying, "Oh, I love Israel. I love Israel. Well, at the same time, he's going behind their back and thwarting them every single chance he can get. It's like, come on, actions
Paul?
speak louder than words.
Can I just
Yeah.
answer this question that Dennis has asked?
Yeah.
How do you become a Jew? And then he says, can I become a Jew? The only answer to that is yes, you can become a Jew by believing in Jesus Christ. And if you accept Jesus Christ as Lord, then you'll be grafted into God's family. Now, if you're an ethnic Jew nationally, then if you're not an ethnic Jew nationally, you can't become an ethnic Jew. You could try and convert to a religion called Judaism, but that wouldn't make you a true Jew. A true Jew is somebody who believes that Jesus Christ is the Messiah because he came.
Alex, does that mean you're a Jew? Sorry, hello, Webby. Hello, Taylor. Hello, Alex. Does that mean you're a Jew, Alex?
Yes, effectively.
So we're all Jews then?
Well, if you have faith in Jesus Christ, you haven't been grafted in.
Silly questions, but
Say again, Denny.
Does that mean we're all Jews then?
Only if you're part of the new covenant, you believe who Jesus said who he was, and you believe that he was sent by his Father to take the sin of the world. If you believe that, then you're part of the new covenant, and whether you're Jew or Gentile, you are a Jew.
Because you wouldn't be an ethnic. You wouldn't be an ethnic Jew. You wouldn't be an Israelite. You wouldn't have that DNA, but you'd be a Jew, a metaphorical Jew, because everybody, in that sense, is a Jew.
Most Jews these days aren't even real Jews anyways. They're descendants from the Khazarian Empire, so they're Khazarians. They're not even really Jews. So.
Well, they're the Jews that say they're Jews, but are not.
Yeah, exactly. They say they're Jews, but they're not. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what is a Jew, Alex? What is a Jew? What does it mean? What?
Well, you've got two senses. One of them is
what does it mean being a Jew? What does it mean being a Muslim? What does it mean being a Hindu? What does it mean?
There's a difference between Muslim, Hindu, and Jew. A Muslim is a description for one who claims that they're in submission to Allah. A Hindu is somebody who subscribes to one of the beliefs in one of the Hindu pantheon or several of the Hindu pantheon of gods. And a Jew is potentially somebody who is of Jewish ethnicity. So it can be both. It's the religion and the nationality.
If you're talking about rabbinical Jews, the ones who don't like Jesus, they follow the Torah, which is the law. But the law was only introduced to point out how condemned we are. You're not going to get saved by following the law. And the ones that rejected Christ, and this is where we see a real effort to keep that information, because once Christ had died and resurrected, all of a sudden, out of the Torah, Isaiah 53 is just taken out. They don't teach it. So when you present Isaiah 53 to an Israeli Jew and you read the passage...
Israeli Jew? Well, what's an Israeli Jew, Webby? Excuse me.
Ones who live, the Jews that live in Israel who were only taught the Torah. And when they're taught the Torah and you give them Isaiah 53, when they hear it, they go, that's New Testament. And you say, why? And you say, well, that's because it's about Jesus. It doesn't say it's about Jesus, but it describes who the Messiah is. And he says, that's Jesus. So that's the New Testament. When they're told it's Isaiah 53 in the Old Testament, they say, we're not taught that. So that's purposefully retracted to not teach them, because it shows you 600 years, whichever part of the book you want to read, but at least 400 years before Christ, Isaiah is telling you this is the Messiah, this is what they'll do to him, this is what will happen. They'll put him on a cross, he will die. They name him Emmanuel, God with us. It's all in Isaiah 53, but the Jews, the ethnic Jews, aren't taught that. So they don't believe in Jesus. And then the Israeli Jews, the rabbinic Jews, then decided to distort the scriptures by writing their own book called the Talmud, and they put the Talmud above the Torah, so above God's law. So they've already said that we're better than God.
Well, Webby, does that mean I'm a Catholic? Does that mean I can go to the Vatican City and say this is my home?
You can what?
I'm a Catholic. Does that mean I can go to the Vatican City and say this is my home?
Are you Roman Catholic?
Roman Catholic, yes.
If you are Roman Catholic and you follow,
No, I don't follow anymore. I'm not disagreeing with you. Listen, Webby, I know you for years, mate. Alex, pleasure talking to you, by the way. I've got a big discussion about religion. I'm not too sure about it anymore, you know. I don't know where we're going with it.
if I was you, Dinny, because with you
Well,
being
we've been away for fucking years, man. I mean, I'm sorry for swearing, but fuck it.
But what I'm saying is, Dinny, is if you picked up the Bible and read it without the filter of Catholicism and ask from your heart to be shown the truth, because I can hear in your voice that you're lost with it, Dinny.
I'm totally lost with it, Webby. Correct. You're correct.
You know there's more to this world, mate. And you are a thinker. You're a drinker and a thinker, mate. But you are a thinker. And open that Bible. I went to that Bible with no dogma. I didn't have a religion. I just went with an open heart because it was the last thing that I hadn't looked down. It was the biggest conspiracy theory that I've never done my due diligence on. So I went to it with an open heart. Mind you, I was put on my knees with what I was going through, and I just cried from my knees and I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Please show me if there's some truth. And bang, bang.
Webby, how do you associate them with people around you?
In what way?
In which way? Because nobody believes what you believe in.
Mate, nobody believed that the gas was free. So it's normal to me.
I'm not telling you, I know the gas. I know you.
No, but I'm saying I was ridiculed.
How do you conversate with unbelievable then people? People who don't believe. How do you fucking, when you walk out your door, how do you conversate with them?
Well, it's very hard to just jump into a theological debate with people. But when people,
so it's a very hard thing for you and Alex.
Well, it
must be very hard for you. It's like you're walking about and everybody around you is full of hate, and you believe in God, which I think is fantastic, brilliant. All my family believes in it. No problem. It must be very hard for you people to go out there and speak to these people.
No.
Yeah, what I would say about that, it's very difficult to answer, really difficult, right? But the entry point I would choose is in the Beatitudes, in the Sermon on the Mount, in Matthew 5, where Jesus said,
I don't even know what Matthew 5 is.
Right, well, I'll explain. So, in the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, Jesus said, blessed are they who hunger and thirst after righteousness.
Right, Alex, sorry. I could bring you a statement from, say, the Quran. I could tell you the same thing. I could bring you the same thing from the Judaism. I could bring up a statement and say, let's follow this statement.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I'm not being rude, Alex. I'm not being rude. I
get it. And Jesus answered that as well.
I just can't get my head fucking round it.
Well, yeah, but in response to that, what Jesus said was, he said, by the fruit of a person's life, you'll know where they're coming from. So if you look at Islam, right, the basic idea is that God is a God of war, a God of conquest, and he's going to slaughter all the people who don't convert. So that's not what Jesus is talking about. So, you've got to look at the outcome of a person's belief, like not just in terms of the church and say the Islamic states and Islamic institutions and the mosques. You've got to look at the individual's life. How are they living? What does it look like to you? Does it stand out? Is it any different? And if you're interested and curious and desire something from your heart, that's the best qualification for finding it. If you're not bothered, if you're indifferent, if you're just like a parrot copying other people, well, lots of people do that. They copy other people.
Yeah. But I must say, I've been in worked in quite a few poor countries. I mean, people who've got sweet nothing, sweet fuck all. The most happiest people on this planet. And without religion.
Yeah.
You know, so does your world, Alex, go around religion? Everything when you wake up in the morning, is it God? God tells me this, God tells me that.
No.
You know, does your whole life go around God? Does your whole belief, everything? Do you know where I'm coming from, Alex?
Yeah, in practice it doesn't, because I'm flawed, like we all are. But I attempt to make it more so every day. Now, does that mean obsession? You could
No,
you
no,
could,
no, no, no.
you could see that it is, but ultimately, the position in the Judeo-Christian traditions, that's Judaism leading to Christianity, was always the same. Basically, anything where a creature puts anything above God is idolatry. Now, the reason for that is not because God's an arbitrary, punitive God who says, "Oh, you crossed the line, son, you're going to burn in the fires of hell." It's because if God is the source of all life, who gave you life, and he says, "Look, I sustain your being, I put the breath in your lungs," and you go, "Well, thanks for that, mate, but I'm going to put this above you," then God kind of, in a logical sense, would say, "Well, I want to try and knock on that door and show you that I'm the one who gave you life." And you go, "Yeah, thanks for that, God. I'm really pleased I've got this life. I'm not going to honor you. So when I breathe my last, I'm not bothered, because I've already said I'm not bothered." But God said, "But I put that breath in you. I put that life in you. That life can continue if you choose it. If you reject it, you're rejecting the life I could give you." So if anyone chooses something that's not God, ultimately is their central priority, they're choosing death. So the whole idea is that God is the source of all life. So who wouldn't want to choose life?
I'm not saying you're wrong, Alex, but
I know.
I'm not saying you're wrong,
I know you're not.
but I don't see the future in religion. Sorry.
I'd offer my two pence here.
Webby, I'm sorry, mate. I don't want to.
No, Dinny, I'll offer my two pence here because you've used the word religion a couple of times. I'm
Yes.
not religious. I'm not religious at all. I'm not Catholic. I'm not Church of England. I'm not Methodist, not Baptist, not evangelical, not Orthodox. I'm nothing other than a reader of the Bible and a follower of what those words say. That is about relationship, a personal relationship. I don't have to go and sit with some bloke and a bloke say, "You're forgiven for your sins, now go away and do 5 Hail Marys." That's not what.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what the Bible's about. The Bible contradicts the Catholics. The Bible contradicts the Church of England because they all agree that there isn't only one way. The Bible says there's only one way, and that is it. And that's the only truth that I've found. And all these people say it's wrong, it's corrupt, it's this.
Webby, what would you say when I was growing up? We had to go to confession, and you're sitting there with the priest and tell him all your sins to get rid of your sins. Would you believe in that, Alex or Webby? I know Taylor doesn't give a fuck about religion. He doesn't know.
Oh, wait, what?
Religion.
If the priest, you go to the priest because it's a promise that if you go to the priest and confess your sins, you'll be forgiven.
Yeah.
No,
I
that
actually
won't.
believed all that. I believed all that, Alex. I believed all that.
Confession's biblical. Confession's biblical, but in James 5, it's very clear. People close to each other on the same level, not a priest in a hierarchy wearing a dog collar and robes, right, who has special standing privileges for God, but believers coming together on the same level, confess to each other, and they talk about the things they got wrong. If you can't talk about what you got wrong, which some people call an apology or whatever, like just on that simple level, how are you ever going to get past it if you can't be transparent with each other? So there is something to confession biblically, but it's not to some man dressed up in fancy dress.
With the dog collar on.
Well, that means
it's not on a leash.
You don't follow a religion then, Alex?
No, except in the sense that...
Hang on. And you don't follow the Bible then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you follow the Bible?
Of course, yes. But the Bible isn't religion. Catholicism is religion, and it doesn't believe the Bible. That's the difference, isn't it? Everything you learned in Catholicism, you've got to let go of. It's not worth it. The Bible follow what the Bible says. Follow what Jesus says. It changes your life. I can only profess that because of my experience. I can't tell you my experience. You're only a spectator of my experience, but you can go and experience it yourself. And if you've never read the Bible yourself without that Catholic filter, then you'll always never know. At least do it, and then it's not like you've not got a bit of time, mate.
No, Webby, because you keep talking about your mother,
Yeah.
I can talk about my mother. My mother was a pioneer, never drunk or never. All my family don't drink. And my granduncle was a priest, and my mother believed I had to go to confession if I did something wrong. That's the way I was brought up. Does that make any sense to you, Webby?
Yes.
And that was all in the Bible.
What was all the Bible?
So, my mother believed in the Bible. So was she right or wrong?
Well,
Should we go to confession?
if you're asking me, should I go to
Yes, I'm asking you, yeah.
No, I wouldn't go to confession in a church because Jesus said that nobody.
It says it in the Bible.
That Jesus says that at some point nobody will come to these buildings because the temple will be within.
But you're picking words out of the Bible.
I'm telling you what the Bible says. Jesus says that.
No, Webby, you're not.
Then here's a parallel. If I ask you,
sorry, Alex, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to.
Let me just ask you two questions. Number one, do you believe in the moon?
The moon.
Do you believe in the moon? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing up. When I look up, I see this big white thing. Yes.
Do you believe that any human being has walked on the moon?
Definitely not. No.
There you go. So there's the distinction, right? So it's a parallel, like with your mum.
Okay, Alex.
She believed in the Bible.
Was Mary a virgin?
Yes.
You believe Mary was a virgin?
Yes.
Do you believe that?
Yes. It's the only way that the Bible works.
Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, very clear. Prophet Isaiah, 750 years before Christ, prophesied that a virgin would give birth to Emmanuel, God with us.
Fair enough. I mean, listen, if you believe that, that's fine. I've nothing against you. But I don't believe that.
Well, that's cool, but think about it in these terms, right? Your mum believed in the Bible, and then she said that if you do this confession thing, that's in the Bible. That's like you saying, yeah, I believe in the moon, but I know a man didn't walk on it. So your mum believed in the Bible, but did she walk and live out exactly what that Bible was saying? Or did she listen to the doctrines of human beings?
Yeah.
She may have listened to the doctrines of human beings because we can all be influenced and say, I believe in the Bible, I believe this is in the Bible, but ultimately then act or live in such a way where she got confused. So that's like saying, yeah, I believe in the moon, but I know or I believe that nobody's walked on it. It's one thing to believe in it, and it's another thing altogether to walk on it.
But tell me this then, Alex or Webby. How does religion help you?
Depends what do you mean by religion.
Well, does it make you? Are you hiding behind something? Is religion your savior? Is religion your just follow God and it doesn't matter what happens. Hang on. You just follow God. It doesn't matter what happens, Webby or Alex. No matter what happens, we've got God. We've got God. Is that it? Is that it?
Not sure about noises.
It's not my noise.
Are the aliens coming for you?
You what?
Are the aliens coming for you? We can't hear you.
No, that's fucking Taylor. That's Donald Trump landing in fucking Washington. Listen,
Wow,
Taylor,
dude.
you little shit. Listen, I've got a bone to pick with you, you little criminal, horrible little American little piece of shit. You believe Trump. For years, I've listened to you. I remember you being on fucking Jason, God rest him, talking about the Jews. Guess who's the best bit of the Jews? He's getting a golden statue now. Yeah?
Good for
Yeah?
him.
You believe him?
Yeah.
Don't listen, please, Taylor. Don't believe politicians, mate. They're all a bunch of lying bastards, and you know it. We all do. We all do. Doesn't matter if you're in Germany, England, or anywhere. Politicians are lying bastards. Somebody tell me I'm wrong, please.
Taylor will tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, will you now? Try me, Taylor. Try me any fucking time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, what?
Tell him to watch a video, mate.
I mean, whether it's watch a video, whatever.
Taylor, shut up. I don't want to speak to you anymore, you little 9/11. You actually believe 9/11 was true.
No. Wait, what do you mean by that's a vague?
Oh, you change your
I never
tune.
believe that.
But
That is
anyway,
a very vague
Alex,
Didn't
thanks
it?
for answering
Didn't
me. You're a
Yeah,
gentleman.
yeah, go on. Sorry, Denny.
Absolute gentleman, Alex.
Go
If you
on.
want to talk about religion, I'm, how can I say it? 50-50. And I was listening to Webby, and Webby got into religion for critics, and I hope you are happy. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't believe the kick. Does that make any sense?
When was the how many times have you read the Bible personally, Dinny? Have you read it a lot?
No. I've got a Bible here. Yes, I do. I've read pages of it, and I flicked through it, and that's the truth, Webby.
That's why you don't believe it, because you're not. See, hang on. You've asked a question. You're going to have to let us answer.
Yep.
When you read the Bible with an open heart, the Bible will speak to you. But if you've got this, this is no good, this is religion.
No. I didn't say that, Webby. I didn't. No. I didn't say no. Go on ahead. Sorry.
So the religious part of it, Catholicism, all these other religions. Taylor mentioned that bloke Joseph Smith. You can't interpret the Bible without his book. The Mormons, you can't interpret the KJV without the Book of Mormon. Now that is blatantly obvious a twisting and a corruption of Scripture. The Catholics do it through symbology mainly, and then idolatry. Catholics will bow at the altar of Mary and light incense. That is idolatry. They'll play with rosary beads. That's idolatry. All these statues around, it's all idolatry. So religion, what you said, will not help this world. Religion will condemn this world. But the Bible, through relationship with God, will save you from this world. And it's the only way. So if you've never read it with all sincerity, you pick it up, read it yourself to read it, and ask those for yourself.
Listen, I'll ask my nephew. He's the same. He lives in Spain at the moment. I'd love to come on your show. He speak to you for fucking hours about it. Really, really nice lad.
Always
It doesn't matter. It's religion. I don't know. I just can't.
Denny, can I ask you a question?
Do you understand? I'm not.
Can I ask you a question, Denny?
Of course you can, Alex.
Very simple, right?
Very simple.
Right, so I can hear you speaking, and I've never met you before. You see me on the screen. I've seen you in the chat. It's the first time you've been on the screen. Now I can see and feel your conflict, right? And that's okay, because conflict can be a good thing as well as an oppressive thing, right? So it's neither good nor bad. It is what it is. But what I'll say to you is this. There are certain things that can't be resolved rationally. You've got to ask questions. You've got to throw the questions around in the boxing ring of life. And sometimes the person gets punch drunk. And there's lots of different permutations in that ring. But what I'm saying to you, mate, is it's always personal, right? I'm quite happy with Paul, if you want us to, we'll pray for you with intent. I'm not
Oh,
saying
no,
right? But if you are interested in knowing the truth and meeting this God that we're speaking about, then all you have to do is say that you are open to that. And if you do that and you request that we pray for you after this show, me and Paul will pray for you in the name of Jesus Christ that he'll reveal himself to you.
Amen.
Right, we can't do any more than that because we can debate it all day and there's merit in that. But if you want healing of soul and you want peace of mind and you want to resolve the conflict of life, there ain't going to be another way as far as I'm concerned. We'll pray for that for you, mate, because we want the best for you. That's what I want for you, mate. I've never met you before. I want that for you. Yeah.
Alex, thank you very much. And
Pleasure.
please do pray for me. Please
Will
do.
do.
You and Webby, please pray for me. Paul Webster and Alex Brockhurst, please do.
We will.
And I'll appreciate that. And I will give you my kindness back, believe me, in a different direction.
Give
I mean
it
that
to
in
the
a good way.
Lord.
Because
Give
I
your
think these are
time.
two good lads.
Yeah.
Good lads. Don't get me wrong.
Give your time to the Lord.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex. Yes.
No.
The answer is yes, okay?
Excellent. That's the least we can do. Brilliant. And then what we can do is we can follow up at any point you see fit in the coming weeks and see what's happened and carry on the conversation. There's no full stop at the end of this conversation, didn't it?
I know that.
What Jesus is about setting people free, right? That's it.
Amen. Anyway, lads, we've got
to listen. I wish everybody thinks I'm a bad man. Webby knows. How many years do you know me, Webby?
Oh, good 6 years, 5-6 years.
I think a bit longer. Yeah, think back.
I'm trying to think when I was first on Raconteurs.
Do you remember Andy Broadhurst?
Yeah, I'm still in touch with him.
Oh yeah,
still in touch with Andy. Yeah.
You do me a favor. Tell him I was asking.
I will do, pal.
I met him in. I met him in where the fuck was it? Southampton. Or?
Yeah.
Lovely lad. Him and his wife. He got married now. He's from Lincoln, from Boston.
Got a cracking voice for radio, hasn't he?
He's got the loveliest voice going.
He has.
And do me a favor, Webby. Send your blessings out to Andy. Tell him I like the lad, you know.
I will do, mate. Listen, we've got to 10 o'clock now, lads. We've done 2 hours. So, Denny, do you want to say anything in closing? Because me and Alex going to shut down.
No, I just want to thank you and Alex. Lovely show. And I listening, and I give him a critic, and I stick my fucking nose in, mix it up a little bit. But yeah, thanks, Webby and Alex and Taylor. Hey, you, with little virgin. Come here, fatty. Taylor.
I think his mum's shouting him.
I don't know what the fuck he's up to.
Yeah, his mum's shouting him.
No, thank you, Alex. I do listen, and you're good guys.
And you have a passion for justice, didn't it? That's written all over you.
I've got justice. You know something, do you, Alex?
Go on.
I don't steal. I don't fucking lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
And I don't need a fucking God to tell me that.
Exactly. You've got your own.
I don't need a God to tell me that. I don't need a fucking God to tell me that.
Was that insight born out of profound struggle when you were very small?
I don't know. My mother slapped it into me.
Well, there you go.
You know.
Denny, thanks for that, mate.
No bother, Webby. Alex, thank you. Taylor, thank you as well.
Praying for you, mate.
Everybody in chat. Everybody knows me in chat. Fair folks to you.
Yeah.
You know.
God bless Denny.
I know I swear not. Right. Go on ahead, folks.
Take care, bud.
All right. God bless.
Thank fuck he's gone.
You have a little bit of a jousting session, you two, don't you? So,
I don't think I've ever met a person before who basically said I'm a little American fuckface and then say thank you for talking to me.
That's dinner. Was that your mum shouting to your team?
You've taken it with good grace, Taylor.
I've known him long enough to I've known him long enough.
I was just going to say he has no choice but to take it with dinner. He had it all on Raconteurs News.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, man. He's probably drunk anyway.
He's had a little bit, but coping mechanisms, and I can hear in his voice that he wants to look for something. He wants to put faith in something, but this world has made him really sceptical of everything, and he does want justice. You can hear it in his voice. Was that your mum shouting you for your tea, by the way?
Was that what?
Was it your mum shouting? Do you know what? That vibration is really putting me off, Taylor. It sounds like
I'm going to be. Oh, you can hear that. Can you hear that?
I can't hear that. It sounds like something I've heard before.
Okay, no, it's not what you think it is. No, it's my laptop. For fuck's sakes. No, it's my laptop. I am the fan inside of it's messed up. I need to get it fixed.
Oh, yes, you do. Because it sounded like you were sat on something, mate.
No. That's fucking no. That's Denny's thing. I know that's what he was probably doing.
Well, before you go, there was brought up with Alex the. Did you see the reporter who was interviewing Biden? He was one of the state representatives, and he said, President Biden, why did you sign this Liquid Natural Gas Act, this executive order that stopped us selling it? Why did you do that? Because it's crippling the economy. And Biden said, I didn't do that. And he said, you did. And they got the executive order and showed him. And he said, I didn't know I'd done that. So the President Biden that's not Biden but is Biden signed an executive order, and he admittedly, openly said, it's on mainstream news now as well, that he didn't know he'd done it. So it just goes to show the last 4 years, Taylor, whether it's all part of this plan in this film or not, it should be showing Americans that he signed something he didn't have a clue about, because that, for me, that 4 year relation, that 4 years that they've had in, if every man and woman in America couldn't see that they were useless, I don't know what to say, mate, because how did Kamala Harris get 60 million votes? Are there really that many people who haven't got a clue about politics in America? That was scary. Whether it's a film or not, you can watch a film and people will like it and people won't. But if there's crap actors in it, most people agree, and people won't watch it. But people want.
I think the actors are amazing, man. They should give this Biden an award. I think he deserves an award for his acting. It's beautiful.
I don't think he's acting. I think that's the problem.
No, it's all in that, because as I said, the whole point of the Biden presidency was to show how evil the Democrats actually are, and to put Biden on display, because you have him having the bumbling, mumbling, senile persona in order to make himself and the Democrat Party look bad. You can tell that the guy actually does know how to speak and talk correctly, as we've seen on multiple occasions. But the point of the whole senile facade is once again to kill the character and to kill the Democrat Party, which Q said that once all this is over, the Democrat Party will cease to exist, and this is all part of it.
Well, so they're talking about there won't be another election, there won't be another vote. So it's going to be interesting, mate. So are you coming? You'll be around next week?
Of course.
Right. Next week, I want you to have written down things for you to talk about so that you've got bullet points. Is that all right?
I actually was planning to talk about certain things here today, but I didn't get a chance to because Danny decided to come on.
Don't worry, mate. You have your own slot, and it'd be like it's your reports. Get through it in sequence and go through the points rapidly, and then we can have the discussion afterwards.
Yep, and I'll have things to share as well, like pictures and articles and stuff like that. You can put on the screen if you want.
Yeah, we'll let you share the screen. So get yourself organised and get that vibrator sorted.
Vibrator. Oh my god.
See you next week, brother.
Yeah, see you next week, man.
God bless, man. God bless.
God bless, man.
Are you still there, mate?
I'm here. Aye.
Bloody hell, it was his vibrator that was causing all that noise, wasn't it?
Well, you know, some special mojo going on there.
Well, these Americans, they're wild and crazy. So,
Yeah.
what have you got to say in closing, my friend?
I put a few comments in the chat. I
Yeah.
think the reason I felt that it was important to speak to Dinny in that way is because when you get people coming on in conflict and struggle, if we've got access to the real deal, a point comes when you can't just keep talking. It's important to talk. Come, let us reason together, the Bible says. Let us reason together. Let's put our ideas side by side. Let's see how things line up or don't line up. That's a vital part of the process. But when people are in distress of soul, they've found there's no way out a lot of the time and they don't know what to do. If the gospel's the gospel, right, then Jesus claims he has the answer. If he delivers, maybe he's got the gospel. If he doesn't, it's empty words. So eventually you've got to put your money where your mouth is. And that's not just the people who are looking and desperate and seeking, but the Lord himself. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the praying we'll do, like we promised. If anybody else feels that they're at an impasse, they don't know this breakthrough, they're curious, you don't have to say it publicly at this time if you don't want. You can ask for prayer independently. You can contact Webby independently and say, look, I'm interested in this. You can remain anonymous and we'll pray for you as well. Because what else can we do? We can talk all day and try and impact and have the discussion by use of reason, bringing our evidence to the table, and then we can get involved in a spiritual battle of enabling people through that support of prayer to make a breakthrough. That's what we're here for as well. So, you know, feel free to reach out anonymously or whatever, and we will pray for you.
Good one, mate. All right, pal. I'll catch up with you in a sec.
Nice one, bro.
So, thanks for all the support in the chat room. It was a really good night. That I think it was good to have all those questions and Dinny coming on. God bless you, Dinny. I can hear that conflict. And like I said, when you read the Bible, it has nothing to do with Catholicism. And the thing that you've got is you've got that wall of Catholicism and you're trying to read the Bible through that. And that's where the conflict is. That's why you know in that religion, you feel that conflict because you don't think religion is that way. And it isn't. But the Bible is. The Bible is totally different. It stands alone and it stands up for itself. We don't need to defend it. If you don't believe it, that's one thing. But if you've never read it, that's another. Be humble. Go with that open heart, what Alex said. Please, I'm open to this. I can't see any other way. Can you show me? That's all I did. But I had to be broke. I had to be at the end of my tether. I had to be not wanting to be here because this world is harsh. And when you find out the truths about it and you understand what the symbols that all interact with all nations and all religions and all secret societies, and they run a banking system and a political system and a judiciary that controls your life. And it's all through a false pretense of acting in commerce. This is the Babylon system. There's nothing changed, folks. It's still the same. Nothing new under the sun. Hopefully catch you all next week, God willing. Night, God bless.
Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Your gas is free, your gas is free, in a debt-based economy. Here's the Webster Report with Paul the Gasman Webster.